Why does nobody want Palestinian refugees?
That's a very good question. Why does nobody wants the Palestinians? Like, if they came from Egypt to live in Gaza, maybe they need to take some of them back. If they came from Jordan, maybe they need to go some of them back. Like, not everybody, but some of them, like as refugees, no?
It's true. And specifically, why has every Arab country rejected sheltering
That's
any
terrible. Why?
refugees from
Why
Gaza?
is that? The only guys that taking them are like Europe, UK, French, Holland. Why only like the Europe taking? It doesn't make any sense.
Just weeks after Hamas's October 7th attack, Israel's massive retaliation left well over 1 million Gazans homeless. Today, almost twice that number.
They
About
shouldn't
90% of Gaza's population has been forced from their homes.
This is what's called F around find out, yeah?
Yet not a single Arab country will open its doors. Why not?
Why not?
Is it a principled stand to prevent Israel from depopulating Gaza altogether? Or are Arab leaders simply talking a good game about Palestinian solidarity while never actually wanting to help them? As you'll see, it's complicated. Hey, I'm Ken LaCorte. You can find a lot of videos about how one side here is evil and the other side is completely innocent victims. But you won't find too many that try to fairly explain what's actually happening in a conflict that's been going on since before we were born. We'll look at the history of Palestinian refugees, their turbulent history in host countries, and finally take a look at the current situation in Gaza. In the next few minutes, you'll understand a whole lot more about this complicated situation. Okay, so the Palestinian refugee crisis began in 1948. During Israel's creation, about 700,000 Palestinians, about 85% of the Arab population
Is that a real number? 700,000?
in that region, they fled or expelled from their homes altogether. Palestinians call it Nakba, meaning catastrophe. Entire villages emptied out overnight. Families escaping on foot or loaded onto carts, they carried what they could. And today, their descendants number almost 6 million people, the largest.
Now there are 6 million people there. Wait a second.
And today, their descendants number almost 6 million people, the largest and oldest refugee population on Earth.
So if they were like 700,000 and now there's 6 million, why they are saying there is a genocide going on? If it is, it's the worst genocide ever, right?
Initially, nearby Arab countries, they assumed it'd be temporary. They set up makeshift camps and didn't try to integrate them into their countries, which is important because rather than bringing Palestinians into their societies permanently, they made a choice to house them separately, insisting their real home was Palestine and they'd soon return. Well, that didn't happen. The refugee problem wasn't solved within months or even years. Instead, it dragged on until today. The temporary camps turned into permanent fixtures, sprawling settlements of tents. They eventually became concrete neighborhoods filled with residents, some of whom still held on to the keys of homes they'd never see again. And then, 19 years later, the situation worsened. During the Six-Day War in 1967, another massive wave of Palestinians.
Who started this war? Who?
This time more than 300,000 fled from the West Bank and Gaza into Jordan, into Lebanon, and Syria.
Who started this war?
The assumption was short-term shelter until the Arabs won, but again, that just proved wrong. The result was overcrowded UN-run camps, swelling even further with Palestinians who were now political pawns trapped in a geopolitical limbo. The reception Palestinians received, it varied wildly between Arab nations. Jordan was the sole exception, which often granted citizens.
Look at Jordan flag. How much time Jordan flag exists and why Palestinian flag exists just few, I don't know, from the 50s, 40s? I don't know. Why it's look like Jordan flag? All I'm saying, they don't have a lot of history there.
Especially to
I'm not saying they weren't there, and I think that there should be living together, all of the Palestinians and the Israelis needs to live together, but I'm not. All I'm saying is that they want the entire land, and nobody likes extremists.
Those fleeing from the West Bank, which Jordan itself had annexed in 1950. But even there, integration wasn't smooth or complete. Palestinians in Jordan still faced challenges, political suspicions, and often violent conflicts. Outside of Jordan, the reception was even colder. In Lebanon, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were intentionally kept stateless, forbidden from citizenship, barred from many jobs, and tightly restricted in camps. Lebanon had a tricky religious and political balance between Christian, Sunni, Shia, and Druze, and it wasn't going to keep a massive Palestinian Sunni population around. A similar situation unfolded in Syria, which kept Palestinians in a permanent holding pattern, tolerated, sometimes welcomed, but rarely integrated into Syrian society. These early conditions set the stage for decades of tension. Palestinian refugees, increasingly frustrated by not having a home, often turned militant, taking their struggle across Arab borders. The Palestinian Liberation Organization emerged partly from these refugee communities, and it became a powerful and armed political force. Of course, that made their host countries even more.
This is like presenting only one side of everything. They were all like on the way, there was like attempts to create both like two countries, and the Palestinians, every time they rejected it, they never wanted another country. Because of borders, they wanted more. And Israel said yes on many solutions. And every time they started wars, countries around Israel, and the Gazans and the West Bank. So it's not just like they sat there, got angry, and then start to struggle. It's not like that.
Wary, and it laid the groundwork for more conflicts. By the 70s,
because a lot of them believe that they need from the river of Jordan to the sea, the Mediterranean one, it need to be belong only to the Palestinians and not to the Israelis. They are saying the Israelis need to go back to Europe. But a lot of the Israelis, not only that they're Jews and have like the right to live there because there was Jews before of that, a lot of Jewish people came from Iraq, from Yemen and other countries, and they were like Jewish, and they were expelled from those countries, didn't have anywhere to go, and they came to Israel.
Palestinian refugee populations had become permanent, distinct groups within Arab countries. They were visible, but rarely integrated, and often distrusted by their hosts. Entire generations grew up in these camps. Children were born, grew into adulthood, and started families of their own without ever living in a home country. Now, understanding...
Because they were busy not building foundations and, buildings like normal country, and they got so much money, they were busy to build tunnels and guns and missiles and stuff like that to attack Israel. This is what they always do. It's repeating itself every time. Everybody wants to live in peace in Israel. Like, not everybody. Like, a lot of people want to live in Israel in peace. I think a lot of people also in Gaza. But not all of them, because they picked Hamas, and look what happened after that.
That history helps explain why, even now, Arab nations are deeply resistant to new waves of...
I know why. I don't want to say. I know why nobody wants to take them in. I don't like... my opinion, I can't share my opinions here, but let's say... I don't know. Let's see what he's going to say.
Palestinian refugees. Hey, this is a good time to mention that while I spend a lot of time researching this, I'm not perfect. If I make any serious factual mistake, let me know. I'll deal with it in a pinned comment below. And
he's not doing mistakes. The only thing he does is he's presenting, he's showing this video as hey, I'm going to explain you why the Arab countries ban all Gaza's refugees, but he's pretty much going very left and explaining only the Gaza side, He should be in the middle and then not be in favor of Israel or the Palestinians. He should be middleman and then talk about it, He shouldn't say stuff like how the Israelis took the land and stuff like that, because show all sides.
And if you like stuff like this, now's a good time to subscribe. Okay, so now let's look at what happened next, because the Palestinian refugees reshaped some of the countries that they were hosted in, and often violently. First, Jordan. By 1970, Palestinians made up more than half of Jordan's entire population. Eventually, their welcome wore out and their relationship exploded into violence. It was known as Black September. It pitted Jordan's military against Palestinian guerrilla groups, mainly the PLO. They'd turned the refugee camps into basically armed fortresses. The PLO essentially created a state within a state. It openly defied Jordan's sovereignty, and it tried to overthrow King Hussein's monarchy. After fierce warfare, Jordan crushed the PLO, leaving about 3,400 Palestinians dead and tens of thousands expelled. Black September taught Jordan a painful lesson, and it would never again let heavily armed Palestinian factions operate on its soil. Actually, most Palestinians by then had citizenship, but thousands were expelled, mainly to Lebanon. And Lebanon got even uglier as the PLO set up shop there. Their armed presence helped ignite Lebanon's civil war from 1975 to 1990, which killed over 100,000 people and displaced about a third of the country from their homes. Militias from all sorts of different sects and outside countries fought viciously, and the Palestinians were often right in the middle of it. Even today, Palestinians in Lebanon, they're politically marginalized, they're banned from many jobs, they're denied citizenship, and they're viewed with suspicion by much of the rest of Lebanese society. Kuwait is another example of how quickly Arab solidarity with Palestinians could evaporate once politics shifted. By 1990, about 400,000 Palestinians lived in Kuwait, making up about 20% of its population. And when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, Yasser Arafat and the PLO publicly supported him, and once again, things got ugly. After much of the world helped Kuwait kick out Saddam, Kuwait then pushed out almost the entire Palestinian community, about 200,000 who were forcibly removed within months, and another 200,000 barred from ever returning. Yasser Arafat later said that Kuwait's actions were even worse than Israel's treatment of Palestinians. Other countries had less violent but similar stories. Iraq, Libya, Saudi Arabia. Palestinians were often welcomed, at least to some extent, then expelled either quietly or through mass expulsions. Each of these episodes showed Arab states and their ambivalence towards the Palestinian. They're publicly supportive of their cause, but privately suspicious and wary of integrating them into their societies. Keeping Palestinians separate and stateless became, in part, a political strategy, and maintaining the refugee crisis as a leverage against Israel rather than permanently solving it. Fast forward today, Hamas fighting Israel. The vast majority of Gazan residents have been displaced. And
before he's going to proceed, and I'm going to proceed this video, I just want to be clear, like, this guy is talking about like center of stuff and then left. Like when I'm saying left, I'm saying like he's on the side of the Palestinians more. He's not talking about like the right of Israel to defend itself, about Israel itself. If Israel should be where Israel is, he's not mentioning anything about it. And even that this is a video about Gaza, he still need to talk about Israel, you know. He can't say like, oh, whoever caused everything here is only Israel, because it's not fair, you know. The other thing I want to say is, like, except from the fact that he's not really fair, that I want to say that, like, in my opinion, my take on this stuff, if it was my choice, like, Israelis should live together with like Arabs there, and there should be a total peace, and nothing like Hamas existing there, and nothing like terrorists existing there. And from the Israel side, no settlements, no right-wing insane people, and just people living together. This is what should be open borders. Israelis love Arabs, and Arabs love Israel. They're getting along together. It's in the end, it's the governments. And when I'm saying governments, I'm saying about Israeli government, the right-wing government, and I'm saying like Hamas, which also the Gazans, a lot of them, have some fault in picking Hamas as like, you know, the government there. Not everybody, but you know, they got elected there. So all I'm saying, there's got to be a way, maybe an external force that can help the Gazans in the West Bank to, like, you know, manage things better, and then have some kind of democracy there, and then living together, open the borders, work together, do stuff together. I bet that the Israelis would love to visit Gaza one day, and I bet that the Gazans will be really happy to go to Israel to visit there, and nobody, I hope, like, it's not going, I don't know if it's going to happen one day, but this is the dream, you know, they got to live together, like both countries. Stop saying from the river to the sea. It doesn't make any sense. You can't throw away all the Jews there. That's horrible. Like, you can't say right things. You need to be, like, live together. You can't be like that. You can't achieve peace like that from both sides.
And they have a refugee crisis even more immediate and intense than past conflicts. But despite that scale and desperation, Arab states have again said no. Egypt's president and Jordan's king immediately slammed their doors shut. Both leaders...
They don't want... I want to say why they don't want them, really. They don't want them because if they'll take them, like, I think, like, when you open a door, they will just keep coming. And they don't want them, not because they don't like them, it's because this is their way to express, like, if they should be in Palestine, they will stay in Palestine, protect them, and the entire world should protect them. If you open the door, they will just bring more of them in, and then there will be no Palestine. This is what I think. So, like, Germany doesn't care about that. They're like, okay, people are dying, we're going to bring some in, you know?
Openly declared that not a single refugee from Gaza would permanently cross their borders.
That's insane.
Egypt even doubled down by heavily reinforcing security at the Rafah border crossing,
that's
making it crystal
insane.
clear
That's insane.
Gazans
That's disgusting.
weren't welcome. King Abdullah summed it up this way.
No refugees in Jordan, no refugees in Egypt. This is a situation of humanitarian dimension that has to be dealt inside of Gaza and the West Bank, and not to try and push the Palestinian challenge and their future onto other people's shoulders.
That's the easiest and safest answer for every government in the Mideast. They clearly understand the danger and instability that a large number of Gazan refugees could bring. They even reject bringing in smaller numbers who might bring the war against Israel with them. Egypt, in particular. It worries about extremists slipping into the Sinai and that Hamas or another radical group would set up shop there.
Thank you for saying that Hamas is a radical group, by the way. The video creator, finally you're saying something. He said good things, but, you know, this is more balanced when he said something about Hamas like that. So I understand more of his opinions.
Where other insurgencies are already going on. Egypt knows that more armed factions isn't going to help their internal issues. And it also wouldn't help if Katyusha rockets and suicide bombers weren't coming from Gaza, but from Egypt itself. They're currently at peace with Israel.
That would be terrible.
They're not looking for any more problems there. So the Arab states, they acknowledge the security issues and then emphasize that they're protecting Palestinian claims by keeping refugees in place, no matter how harsh that sounds. It's easier to condemn Israel's actions loudly than to practically support Palestinian refugees. Political rhetoric, well, that doesn't cost anything. But housing millions of displaced Palestinians, that costs dearly. Security risks, social cohesion, you name it. Palestinians themselves are conflicted too. I mean, for many, leaving Gaza feels like permanently surrendering their homeland, exactly what Israel would want. And ironically...
Again, that's not exactly what Israel would want. You can't say that Israel would want that. Not all of the Israelis think that you should take, like you're saying, get rid of everybody. That's not, you can't say that of like entire country. A lot of people from the government, yes, they are thinking like that, but not the entire country.
Both Palestinians and Arab states find themselves resisting relocation for different reasons, obviously. That effectively traps Gazans in horrific conditions, caught between Israeli airstrikes and a sealed Arab border. But it leaves us with a fundamental moral...
Who starts every conflict? Who starts every conflict? Just ask ChatGPT or Google. Who starts every conflict? Every time, every 4 or 5 years, who's starting?
And practical dilemma that's still unresolved. Is forcibly keeping Palestinians trapped inside Gaza a principled stand?
It's pretty simple. And then when I'm saying like who's starting it, and then the answer I'm going to get is, well, they're starting it, like the Gazans, but they're starting because they're like in a closed, like an open prison, air prison, you know? Well, no, that's not true. They got a lot of money, a lot of supports when they are not in war. They're getting a lot of food and trucks with supplies and everything. You know, whatever they want, they got it. They got open borders to work in Israel. They're using Israeli money. They got electricity from Israel. They got everything from Israel. Sometimes Israel buying stuff from them. Everything is fine. But they're taking the money and building tunnels and like weapons because they want to take over Israel and Israel won't allow it. So, yeah, that's the reality. You know, it's a vicious cycle that this is what the Gazans do. You know, they're building, not all the Gazans, you know, at least Hamas and whoever picked Hamas, they're building buildings and they're building military infrastructure, and then they're starting war. Israel flattening everything, and then they're saying, oh no, look what happened. And then everybody feel bad on the Gazans. They are giving money, and then they're building infrastructure for war, and they're building more buildings, and then Israel flattening everything. This is nobody enjoying it. Israel losing a lot of soldiers, a lot of people as well dying in Israel side. Gazans, they have way more casualties, but you know, war. What can you do with all of those wars, you know? You know, it's, I don't know. And in the end, this video, why Arab countries ban all of Gaza refugees, I think that in the end, I don't know, they should be ashamed. You know, it's like, if it's a refugee, he want to go, he shouldn't be locked like in a prison. He should go somewhere, not stuck like in Gaza. Because you never know who he is, you know? Maybe they really want to try and live there. I don't know. It's terrible.
Against Israel's pressure, or is it inhumane? So like a lot of things, it's too simple to accuse the Arab states of outright cynicism, using Palestinian suffering as a political weapon against Israel without genuinely wanting to help them. But on the other hand, there's elements of truth in that as well. Like I said in the introduction, it's complicated. Hey, here's another complicated question. Why do Arab armies almost always lose to the West? They can do pretty well with insurgencies and guerrilla warfare, but the last time an Arab army won a decisive war against the West was the Battle of Hattin, when Saladin defeated the Christian Crusaders and conquered Jerusalem. That was in 1180.
Okay, that's... Yeah, I'm going to watch this like next time. This is like... But it's... Yeah. I mean, this guy, he should be more balanced. I'm not saying he's totally on the Palestinian side, but he should be in the middle. This is what I'm saying.